Yo, Casually Sheepy here. Today we're going to be looking at a guide for defeating Rennala of the Great Moon with no hits at rune level 30 on a melee build. So this is mostly a strength build, but it is does have a little bit of point support into dex. We have Radagon's Scar Seal, which is going to boost dex, strength, vigor, and stamina by 3 points. So all these things should be obtainable fairly early in the game. And we'll be using 3 different weapons, and this boss fight is going to be a lot easier with a melee build because Rennala just is very good at avoiding spells, and she has a ton of space to just avoid incoming projectiles in the second phase of the boss fight. So the first part of the boss fight, we're going to be using a Shamshir with Wild Strikes on it, and I definitely like Wild Strikes as an Ash of War to just deliver tons of damage very quickly. And we'll be using the Shamshir for another reason, because hitting her little minions is a little bit easier with the Shamshir because the running attack comes out as like a low sweep and all the little minions are on the ground. So this is how we get to the boss fight, and real quick we'll take a look at the build. We won't really be running much poise. Again, we'll be boosting our stats a little bit with our mixed physic, 10 points into strength with our mixed physic as well, and then we're going to be boosting stamina recovery with both a talisman and our mixed physic. So the armor you wear is not super important, but I would recommend using both the Shamshir and the Uchigatana and having some sort of dagger for crits, because all those things are going to be important. So starting off, the boss fight is kind of trivial in the first half once you get a feel for it. You want to be running around pretty much the whole time, and you're going to be looking for the minions that have the glowing aura around them. I find that it's really nice to be doing this boss fight with headphones in, so you get kind of directional hearing, because you can hear their song, and following the song will usually get you to the little minion that you need to hit. And it's worth noting that you don't need to kill the minion outright, you just need to get one hit on them. So that's where fan daggers come into effect quite well. You can just hit them once with a fan dagger and then kind of be on your merry way. You don't have to get too up close and personal. Now here we can see where Wild Strikes is really helpful, and we just want to get enough hits in to get Rennala's bar below halfway, because we know we're going to need to do this twice, and so we only need to get halfway once, and then we can stop and avoid the potential big explosion that comes out of that little like aura from her body after she goes back up into the big bubble. So we're able to do a mix of getting Shamshir attacks and throwing fan daggers just to break these bubbles as quick as possible. Again, running around the room constantly is going to be helpful. There's going to be things falling and exploding, and to not get hit by books from the singing little minion is going to be helpful as well. So here again, we're going to go for Wild Strikes. Since she's below half health, we can expect that we're going to be able to get all the Wild Strikes we need to move on to the second phase, and immediately we're going to drink blue and then drink our physic and swap over to the Uchigatana. Now what's nice about the Uchigatana for the second phase is Unsheath does a lot of poise damage, and it also has innate bleed buildup. So it's another good thing about it is that you're going to be able to stance break Rennala with just regular light attacks, and because she has very low poise and you can stance break her over and over again, you can frequently just kind of chain attacks. So here we get a poise break fairly early on and switch over to the Misericord because the crit damage is going to be higher, and then swatch back over to the Uchigatana. We do get the bleed proc, and really before she's able to do too much, we're able to really just do all the damage we need to flawless our opponent here. So we do need to dodge some projectiles, but she doesn't get to do a lot of the attacks that she'd like to, so that's going to be a nice flawless there. So we'll look at this second phase a couple different times that I ran this. So again, early mixed physics, switching over to the Uchigatana, and then getting some unsheaths in just because the poise damage is going to be quite high. We go for a running attack to kind of close the gap. See that she's going to go for the spinning staff, so we back off a little bit, and then we get these stance breaks, not full stance breaks, just breaking her poise, and then we do get the full stance break, go for the Misericord attack, and get quite a lot of damage. Having that fire infused on a strength build is going to be more beneficial than if it was just heavy infused. And now we do see one of her summons coming out, and we can mostly just run away from it, get a few hits in, and then look back, see where it is, realize that it's pretty far away, and continue to aggress. So obviously the different summons that she gets can kind of change the course of this boss fight, but getting the bleed proc in the second half is going to be quite helpful. And that's something I should mention as well. We're not doing any innate bleed in the first half of the boss fight because we want to save it for the second half. The number of times you bleed Rennala is going to increase the amount of hits required to make her bleed a second time. So we'd rather have the amount of bleed required be as low as possible for the second half of the boss fight and not really worry about needing to bleed her too quickly in the first part of the boss fight, because the first part is much easier. So kind of saving those bleed procs for the second half is preferable. We'll also note that the poise break that we're looking for to get the dagger attack as well as the blood loss proc are harder if she goes for the moon attack, just because she cannot take hits in that moment. But here we do get the poise break when the dragon comes in. You're actually lower than the fire during the first half of that attack, so you don't need to worry about it too much when the dragon does come in, but when it comes and swoops down, that is a way for you to take damage. So here, right as we kill her, we do take some damage from the dragon. So I hope this was helpful. If you wouldn't mind considering subscribing, I'd appreciate it, and I hope you have a good day.